My life would be easier without you, she said while I was washing dishes. I didn't argue. I just grabbed my keys and the black envelope I'd hidden 18 months ago. By the time she tried to leave for yoga 20 minutes later, everything she thought was hers had vanished. My name is Graham Collier. I'm 42 years old, and until 3 months ago, I was married to a woman who forgot I existed long before she remembered to tell me. We have 2 kids. Ruby, 15, sharp as a tack and twice as stubborn. Leon, 13, quieter but watches everything. They're the only reason I stayed as long as I did. Well, them and the fact that I'm the kind of fool who thought persistence could substitute for being wanted. I worked in cold storage distribution. Not glamorous, but steady. I managed logistics for a regional warehouse network, the kind of operation that keeps grocery stores stocked and restaurants running. Temperature control, route optimization, compliance paperwork. It was methodical work, and I was good at it. Natalie used a joke that I treated our marriage like a refrigerated shipment, always monitoring, always adjusting. She stopped joking about it around year 10. By year 14, she stopped talking about it all. The morning it ended started ordinary enough. Tuesday, October 5th. I was rinsing out my coffee mug when she walked into the kitchen, already dressed for her yoga class, phone in one hand, car keys in the other. She didn't look at me. You forgot to take the trash out again, Natalie said. I glanced at the bin. It wasn't full. I'll get it tonight, I replied. That's what you said yesterday. Then I'll do it now. Don't bother. Her tone was flat, final. You'll just forget again. I set the mug down carefully. The water was still running. I turned it off and faced her. Something in her posture told me this wasn't about the trash. It never was. What's this really about? I asked quietly. She looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time in weeks. And what I saw in her eyes wasn't anger. It was indifference. My life would be easier without you, she said. Not shouted, not whispered, just stated, like she was reading off a grocery list. I stood there for a moment, letting the words settle. 16 years, 2 kids, a mortgage, thousands of small compromises and late-night conversations and shared histories. All of it reduced to one sentence delivered with less emotion than she'd used to order coffee. I didn't argue, didn't ask her to take it back. I just nodded once, grabbed my keys and wallet from the hall table, and walked out the front door. It was 7:43 in the morning. I didn't slam the door, didn't look back through the window. I got in my truck, started the engine, and pulled out of the driveway while she stood in the kitchen, probably already scrolling through her phone. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, is that I'd been preparing for this moment for 18 months. I drove to the parking lot by Miller's Creek, about 15 minutes from the house. It's one of those spots locals know but tourists never find, tucked behind an old textile mill that shut down in the 90s. I parked facing the water and pulled out my phone. Not the iPhone Natalie knew about. The burner I'd been carrying for the past year, prepaid, registered under a business name that didn't exist anymore. I opened the app I'd built myself. Simple interface, clean design. One button. I'd labeled it Reset. My finger hovered over it for maybe 3 seconds. Then I pressed it. The script I'd written 18 months ago began executing. It was elegant, really. Years of managing cold storage logistics had taught me one crucial skill: how to shut down a system completely while leaving no room for manual override. Temperature controls, access codes, backup generators. In my world, fail-safes weren't suggestions. They were gospel. I'd applied that same philosophy to my exit. The first thing the script did was change every password on every account tied to our home network. Router, smart thermostat, security cameras, garage door opener, even the smart locks I'd installed last Christmas. Natalie had thought they were a gift. They were, just not for her. Second, it rerouted the banking alerts. Our joint checking account, the one she thought we still shared, had been quietly converted to a different status 6 months ago. I was primary. She was authorized user. Past tense, as of 8:03 this morning. Third, it triggered a series of automated emails to our insurance company, our mortgage lender, and 3 different utility providers. Each one contained a formal notice of separation, dated and notarized. I'd signed them 14 months ago during a business trip to Pittsburgh that wasn't really a business trip. My lawyer, a guy named Dennis Pruitt, had everything. Recorded conversations, financial statements showing where money had really been going, Screenshots of texts Natalie thought she deleted. I hadn't been spying. I'd been documenting. I sat there by the creek, watching the water move, and checked my watch. 8:14. She'd be trying to leave for yoga right about now. My phone buzzed. The iPhone. Her name lit up the screen. I let it ring. It buzzed again. Then again. By the fourth call, I turned it off completely. The burner stayed on. I opened my email and saw the first automated confirmation. Insurance policy restructured. Single holder. Effective immediately. Then another. Bank access updated. New credentials required. Then another. Mortgage account. Primary contact information changed. Each notification felt like a door closing. Not slamming. Just clicking shut. One after another. Quiet and final. I thought about Ruby and Leon. They were at school by now. Ruby had early band practice. Leon had math tutoring. Neither of them knew what their mother had said to me this morning. Neither of them knew what I'd been planning for a year and a half. But they would. Soon enough, they would. I started the truck and pulled out of the parking lot. I had a meeting at 9:30 with a man named Victor Chun, no relation to anyone we knew, who ran a small cold storage facility 2 towns over. He'd been looking for a consultant, someone who understood the business from the ground up, someone who needed to disappear without actually vanishing. Natalie stood in the garage, staring at the keypad like it had personally betrayed her. She'd entered the code 3 times. The same code we'd used for 8 years. The little screen just blinked red, then went dark. She tried her phone, opened the garage door app. Connection failed. She tapped it again. Same result. Back inside, she grabbed her laptop from the kitchen counter and opened the browser. Bank account login. She typed her username and password, the one saved in her browser's autofill. Invalid credentials. She tried again, slower this time, making sure each character was correct. Same message. Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister, Diane. Still on for lunch Thursday? Natalie ignored it and dialed my number. Straight to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. A third time. Nothing. She opened her email app. There were new messages. The first one was from Horizon Mutual Insurance. Policy holder update. Action required. She opened it. The words didn't make sense at first. Restructuring. Primary holder change. Marital separation documentation. Effective immediately. Her hand started shaking. The next email was from First National Bank. Joint account status modified. Then another from the mortgage company. Primary contact information updated. She sat down at the kitchen table, phone clutched in both hands. The thermostat on the wall blinked. Then the temperature jumped from 72 to 85. She walked over to adjust it. The screen was locked. Administrator access required. She tried the code. Denied. Her breathing got faster. She went to the front door and checked the smart lock. Same thing. Locked out her own system. The Wi-Fi network on her phone showed connected, but nothing would load. She checked the network name. It had changed. Instead of Call Your Home, it now read SAN 8847 SecureNet. She didn't recognize it. By 9:30, she called me 17 times. She'd texted 12 messages, starting with confusion and escalating to anger. What is going on? This is insane. You can't just lock me out of everything. I'm calling my lawyer. I didn't respond to any of them. At 10:15, she called her mother. I know because my lawyer had arranged for a contact at the phone company to flag certain calls. Legal. Under the separation clause I'd filed months ago. Her mother told her to calm down, that I was probably just upset and would come home by dinner. Natalie didn't tell her mother what she'd said to me that morning. She just said we'd had a disagreement. By 11, she was sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. The house felt different. The air felt different. It was the same furniture, the same walls, but something fundamental had shifted. She finally understood. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't me throwing a tantrum or trying to teach her a lesson. This was an ending. And I'd written it months before she ever said those words. Ruby came home first, around 3:40. She dropped her backpack by the door and headed straight for the kitchen, pulling out her phone to check messages. Natalie was still at the table, laptop open, surrounded by paper she'd printed out from the few accounts she could still access. Mom, Ruby's voice had that teenage mix of concern and annoyance. Why are you just sitting there? Natalie looked up. Her eyes were red. Have you heard from your father? Ruby frowned. No. Why? He left this morning. He won't answer his phone. Left? Like left. I don't know, Natalie said quietly. Maybe. Ruby's expression shifted. Not to sadness. To something harder. What did you say to him? The question landed like a slap. What? What did you say to him? Ruby repeated, slower. Dad doesn't just leave. So what did you do? Ruby, that's not fair. You think I haven't noticed? Ruby's voice rose. You think I don't see how you talk to him? Like he's invisible. Natalie stood up. This is between your father and me. No, it's not. Ruby pulled out her phone. Because I just got an email from him. Natalie's face went pale. What? Ruby opened it, read silently for a moment, then looked up. He says he's okay. He says he loves us. And he says to check a shared folder he created. What folder? Ruby tapped her screen a few times, then her eyes widened. She turned the phone around. It showed a Google Drive folder labeled for Ruby and Leon. Inside were documents, bank statements, text message screenshots, meeting receipts, calendar entries, all dated, all organized, all meticulously labeled. Ruby scrolled through them, her face getting harder with each swipe. Then she looked at her mother. You've been meeting someone. Natalie's voice cracked. It's not what you think. There are hotel receipts here, Mom. 3 different hotels, all in the last 6 months. Ruby's hands were shaking. Dad knew. He's known this whole time. The front door opened. Leon walked in, earbuds in, oblivious. He pulled them out when he saw their faces. What's going on? Ruby handed him her phone without a word. Leon read, scrolled, read more. His jaw tightened. He looked at Natalie. Is this real? Natalie reached for him. Leon, let me explain. He stepped back. Did you cheat on Dad? It's complicated. That's not an answer, he said quietly. The way he said it, calm and cold, reminded Natalie exactly of me. Did you cheat on him? She couldn't answer. The silence did it for her. Leon handed the phone back to Ruby. I'm going to my room. Leon, wait. He didn't wait. He walked upstairs, and a moment later, his door closed. Not a slam, just a click. Final. Ruby stared at her mother. You told him his life would be easier without you, didn't you? Natalie blinked. How did you? Because that's what you always say when you're done with something. Ruby's voice broke slightly. You said it about Grandma, about your job, about the dog we had to give away. She picked up her backpack. I'm going to Jenna's house. Ruby, please. I don't want to be here right now. Ruby walked to the door, then stopped. You know what the worst part is? Dad never said a bad word about you. Not one. He just left, and I don't blame him. The door closed behind her. Natalie stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the pieces of a life she'd dismantled without realizing she was holding the hammer. I spent that first night in a motel off Route 40, the kind of place that rents by the week and doesn't ask questions if you pay cash. The room smelled like old carpet and industrial cleaner, but it had a bed, a bathroom, and most importantly, no memories. I sat at the small desk and opened my laptop. 18 months of planning had brought me here, but planning and executing are 2 different animals. I pulled up the spreadsheet I'd been maintaining since the day I realized my marriage was already over. I just hadn't filed the paperwork yet. Phase 1, complete. Accounts separated, access revoked, documentation triggered. Phase 2 was already in motion. I'd signed a consulting contract with Victor Chun 3 weeks ago. He ran a mid-sized cold storage operation that needed someone who understood the distribution side of the business. 6-month contract, option to extend. It wasn't much, but it was enough to rent a place and start over. My phone, the burner, buzzed. Text from Dennis Pruitt, my lawyer. Received calls from her attorney. Declined representation. Forwarded your documentation packet. They're scrambling. I typed back. Kids. Emails delivered as scheduled. No legal issues with disclosure. Everything you sent them was factual and documented. I set the phone down and stared at the wall. Ruby and Leon. They'd seen the evidence by now. Bank statements showing cash withdrawals I never made. Text messages between Natalie and someone named Derek Sutherland, a guy she'd met through her yoga studio. Hotel receipts from nights she'd claimed to be at her sister's house. I hadn't wanted them to find out this way. Hell, I hadn't wanted them to find out at all. But Natalie had made that choice for me when she decided our marriage was negotiable and honesty was optional. My phone buzzed again. Ruby, Dad, where are you? I stared at the message. Then I typed, I'm safe. I'm okay. I'm sorry you had to see those documents. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Are they real? Yes. A longer pause. I'm so sorry, Dad. My throat tightened. Not your fault, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. Can I see you? Soon. I promise. I just need a few days to get settled. Mom's a mess. I know. I don't want to be here. I close my eyes. Is Leon okay? He won't talk to her. He's in his room. Tell him I love him. Tell him I'll call tomorrow. Okay. Love you, Dad. Love you too. I set the phone down and sat there in silence. The heater kicked on, rattling slightly. Outside, a truck rumbled past on the highway. I'd burned down my old life in a single morning. But I wasn't rebuilding out of anger. I was rebuilding out of necessity, because staying would have killed me slowly, and leaving was the only way to remember what it felt like to breathe. Tomorrow, I'd start looking for an apartment. Something small, clean, functional. Somewhere Ruby and Leon could visit without feeling like they were walking into a crime scene. Tonight, I just sat in that motel room and let myself feel the weight of what I'd done. It was heavy, but it wasn't wrong. Natalie sat in the law office of Brian Kendrick, an attorney her sister had recommended. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe early 40s, with the kind of polished confidence that came from winning more cases than he'd lost. He'd been reviewing documents for 20 minutes. Every so often, he'd make a note or flip back to a previous page. Natalie watched his face for any sign of hope. She didn't find any. Finally, he looked up. Mrs. Collier, I'm going to be direct with you. This is one of the most thoroughly documented separations I've ever seen. What does that mean? It means your husband has been preparing for this for well over a year. Maybe longer. He tapped the stack of papers. These separation agreements are dated, notarized, and filed with the state. The financial restructuring was done legally and with proper documentation. The insurance modifications followed protocol. Even the smart home system changes fall under property rights because he's the one who purchased and installed them. Natalie's voice was quiet, so I have no recourse. I didn't say that, but I need you to understand what we're up against. He opened a folder. Your husband documented everything. He has recordings of arguments, screenshots of text messages, financial records showing discrepancies in spending, and most damaging, he has evidence of an extramarital affair. Her face went pale. How much evidence? Enough that if this goes to court, a judge will side with him on almost every major issue. He paused. Did you meet Derek Sutherland at hotels on multiple occasions? She couldn't speak. She just nodded. Kendrick sighed. Then we need to focus on damage control, not winning. The affair changes everything, especially regarding asset division and potential custody arrangements. Custody. Her voice broke. He wouldn't take the kids from me. He might not have to. Your daughter is 15. Your son is 13. At those ages, judges give significant weight to the children's preferences. He looked at her carefully. Have you spoken with them since this started? They won't talk to me. Ruby's staying with a friend. Leon barely leaves his room. That's going to be a problem. Kendrick closed the folder. Mrs. Collier, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Did you say something to your husband the morning he left? Something that could be construed as requesting separation. Natalie stared at her hands. I told him my life would be easier without him. Kendrick was quiet for a moment. Did anyone else hear you say that? No, just him. Did you text it? Email it? Write it down anywhere? No. He made a note. That's something, at least. It's your word against his. He looked up. But given everything else he's documented, I wouldn't count on that helping much. So what do? First, stop trying to contact him directly. All communication goes through me and his attorney from now on. Second, document everything. Every interaction with your kids, every expense, every attempt you make to cooperate. Third, end things with Derek Sutherland immediately. No contact, no texts, nothing. It's already over. Good. Keep it that way. He stood. I'll file a response to his separation notice and request a mediation session. But Mrs. Collier, I need you to prepare yourself for the reality that you're not going to get what you want here. The best we can hope for is minimizing the damage. Natalie left the office feeling like she'd been hollowed out. She sat in her car in the parking lot and stared through the windshield at nothing. 16 years, 2 kids, a house she'd helped decorate, a life she thought was stable, and she destroyed it with one sentence. 3 weeks after I left, I met Ruby and Leon at a diner halfway between my new apartment and the house. It was a Sunday morning, the kind of quiet gray day that makes everything feel suspended in time. I got there early and took a booth by the window. Ruby arrived first, Leon trailing behind her. They both looked tired. Ruby hugged me hard, didn't let go for a long moment. Leon's hug was stiffer, but he held on just as tight. We were to breakfast. Pancakes for Ruby, eggs and bacon for Leon, coffee for me. Nobody talked about the elephant in the room until the food arrived. Mom wants us to tell you to come home, Ruby said, cutting her pancakes into precise squares. What do you want? I asked. She looked up. I want to know if you're really okay. I am, I said. Better than I've been in years. Leon spoke quietly. She cries a lot. I know that's hard for you to see. It's not hard, he said, still looking at his plate. It's just, I don't feel bad for her anymore. He finally met my eyes. Is that wrong? No, I said carefully. It's honest. Ruby set her fork down. Dad, I graduate in 2 years. After that, I'm going to college somewhere far away. But Leon stuck there for 5 more years. She glanced at her brother. We've been talking. Leon nodded. I want to live with you. The words hit me harder than I expected. Leon, I mean it, he said. I can't be in that house anymore. She keeps trying to explain things, but she just makes it worse. And I don't trust her. Have you told her this? She won't listen. Ruby's voice was flat. She thinks if she just apologizes enough times, everything goes back to normal. Nothing's going back to normal, Leon said. And I don't want it to. I looked at both of them. My kids, caught in the middle of something they didn't create and couldn't fix. If this is what you want, I'll talk to my lawyer. But it's going to get messy. Your mom's not going to just agree to this. I don't care, Leon said. I can't be there anymore. Ruby reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'll come on weekends. Once I get my license next month, I can drive myself. Your mother's not going to make this easy. She never does, Ruby said quietly. We finished breakfast and I drove them back. Neither of them wanted me to drop them at the house, so I let them out at the corner. Ruby hugged me again before getting out. Leon paused at the door. Dad, yeah, buddy. Thanks for not staying. He said it simply, like he was thanking me for passing the salt. I know that sounds weird, but thanks. He got out before I could respond. I watched them walk down the street toward the house, shoulders squared, steps deliberate. They looked older than they had 3 weeks ago. I pulled away and called Dennis Pruitt. We need to file for custody modification. Both kids. Just Leon. Ruby wants to stay neutral, visit on weekends. Leon wants to live with me full time. That's going to trigger a fight. I know, but he asked. And I'm not telling my son no when he's asking for help. All right, Dennis said. I'll draft the paperwork. But Graham, you need to be ready. This is about to get ugly. It's been ugly for 16 years, I said. At least now it's honest. Natalie showed up at my apartment 2 days after I filed the custody motion. She didn't knock. She pounded on the door like she was trying to break it down. I opened it. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Hair pulled back messily. No makeup. Sweatshirt I recognized from 5 years ago. You're trying to take my son from me, she said. Not a question. An accusation. Leon asked to live here. I replied calmly. I'm honoring his request. He's 13. He doesn't know what he wants. He knows he doesn't want to live with someone who lied to him for over a year. Her face twisted. You poisoned him against me. I showed him the truth. That's not poison, Natalie. That's clarity. I kept my voice level. You want to be angry at someone? Look in the mirror. I made a mistake. You made a choice. I corrected. Multiple choices. Over months. And now you're dealing with consequences. Graham, please. Her voice broke. Don't do this. I'll end things with Derek. I'll go to counseling. Whatever you want. I don't want anything from you anymore. That's the point. What about the kids? They need both parents. They'll have both parents. Leon will just live here. Ruby can visit whenever she wants. You'll have custody time. Supervised at first given everything that's happened. Supervised. Her voice went shrill. You think I'm dangerous? I think you're unstable right now. And until you prove otherwise, I'm not taking chances with my kids. She stepped forward. They're my kids too. Then you should have thought about that before you decided to throw away our family. I didn't move. You want to fight this in court? Fine. We'll fight. I've got documentation going back 18 months. Financial records, text messages, witness statements. Your own lawyer told you how this plays out. I won't let you take him. You don't get a vote. My voice hardened. Leon's 13. In this state, judges give significant weight to a teenager's preference in custody cases. He'll tell the judge he wants to live with me. The judge will ask why, and Leon will tell him about the affair, about the lies, about how you treated me in front of him for years. You're coaching him. I don't have to coach him. He was there, Natalie. He saw everything. Kids aren't blind. I stepped back. You created this situation. You want an easier life without me. Well, you got it. But you don't get to keep everything else too. She was crying now, mascara running down her face. I love my kids. I know you do. But love isn't enough when you've destroyed their ability to trust you. Graham, please. I'm begging you. You should have begged before you met Derek at the Riverside Inn. I started to close the door. My lawyer will be in touch about the custody hearing. Wait. I stopped. Can I at least see Leon? Talk to him. That's up to him. You want to reach out? Go ahead. But he's not obligated to respond. I paused. And Natalie? Stop showing up here. Next time, I'm calling the police. I closed the door. She stood there for a moment. I could hear her ragged breathing. Then footsteps getting quieter. I leaned against the door and let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My phone buzzed. Text from Ruby. Mom just called me screaming about custody. Is Leon really moving in with you? If that's what he wants, yes. Good. He needs to get out of there. I set the phone down and walked to the window. Outside, the city moved at its normal pace. People went to work, running errands, living their lives. My life had imploded, but the world kept turning. And for the first time in 16 years, I was okay with that. The custody hearing took place on a Tuesday morning in late November. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The judge's bench elevated like a fortress. Natalie sat at the opposite table with Brian Kendrick. She dressed carefully, business suit, minimal makeup, hair pulled back. She looked composed, but I could see her hands shaking slightly when she reached for her water glass. Leon sat in the waiting area outside. He'd asked to speak to the judge directly, and Dennis had arranged it. The judge, a woman named Sarah Holbrook, had 20 years on the bench and a reputation for not tolerating games. Kendrick went first, painting a picture of a devoted mother blindsided by a vengeful husband. He called Natalie to the stand. She talked about PTA meetings, soccer practices, homework help. All true, all irrelevant. Dennis cross-examined her. Mrs. Collier, did you engage in an extramarital affair with Derek Sutherland? She hesitated. Yes, but. Yes or no, please. Yes. For how long? About 14 months. And during this time, did your husband know? Not initially, but he discovered it, documented it, and only then filed for separation? Yes. Dennis nodded. No further questions. Then it was my turn. I kept it simple. Talked about my job, my income, the apartment I'd secured. I explained that I wasn't trying to exclude Natalie from the kids' lives. I just wanted Leon to have stability. He has to live with me. I said, I'm not forcing anything. Judge Holbrook called Leon in. He walked to the witness box, shoulders straight, voice steady. She asked him why he wanted to live with me. Because my dad'd been honest with me, Leon said. My mom hasn't, and I can't trust someone who lies. That's a serious accusation. Judge Holbrook said gently. It's the truth. Leon looked at Natalie. I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't live there anymore. The judge was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Thank you, Leon. You can step down. She took 15 minutes to review the documents. When she came back, her decision was clear. Primary custody of Leon Collier is granted to Graham Collier. Natalie Collier will have supervised visitation every other weekend, with the possibility of modification after 6 months, pending successful completion of family counseling. Natalie's face crumbled. Kendrick put a hand on her arm. Ruby Collier's custody remains joint, with her express preference for weekend visitation with her father respected. Judge Holbrook looked at both of us. This family has been through enough. I expect both parents to prioritize these children's well-being over personal grievances. Understood. We both nodded. Outside the courtroom, Leon hugged me. Can we go home now? Yeah, buddy, I said quietly. We can go home. 11 months later, I stood in the kitchen of a small house I'd purchased on the outskirts of town. 3 bedrooms, a yard big enough for a grill, and a garage where Leon could practice basketball. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. Ruby was setting the table for dinner, home for Thanksgiving break from her first semester at college. Leon was in the living room. Homework spread across the coffee table. The normalcy of it still caught me off guard sometimes. My consulting business had grown. Victor Chin's operation had expanded, and I'd taken on a permanent position as his distribution director. Good pay, reasonable hours, and work that mattered. Natalie had completed her counseling. Her supervised visits with Leon had graduated to unsupervised, though he still preferred staying with me. Ruby saw her more often, maintaining a careful distance that worked for both of them. Derek Sutherland was gone from the picture. I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that Natalie had ended things completely. Whether out of guilt or necessity, I didn't know and didn't care. My phone buzzed. Text from Dennis Pruitt. Divorce finalized. Congrats. I set the phone down and looked around. This wasn't the life I planned when I got married 16 years ago. It wasn't the future I'd imagined when Ruby was born or when Leon took his first steps. But it was honest. It was mine. And it was enough. Ruby walked over and bumped my shoulder. You okay, Dad? Yeah, I said. I really am. Leon called from the living room. Dad, when's dinner? I'm starving. 10 minutes, I call back. Ruby grinned. Some things never change. Some things shouldn't, I replied. That evening, after dinner, after the dishes were done and the kids had retreated to their rooms, I sat on the back porch with a beer and watched the sun set. The sky turned orange, then purple, then dark. Natalie had said my life would be easier without her. She'd meant it as a weapon. But she'd been right, just not the way she intended. My life wasn't easier because she was gone. It was better because I'd finally stopped waiting for her to change. I'd stopped waiting for permission to want more. I'd stopped accepting less than I deserved. And somewhere in the wreckage of that marriage, I found something I thought I'd lost years ago. Myself.